Hey, Diana, did you know the biggest reason this podcast exists is because another podcaster trash talked me?
Mark, that is the absolute dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to a very, very special edition of the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. Diana, this is our 100th episode.
Congratulations, Mark.
Can you believe it? Well,
I can.
Congratulations to you. Yes.
I can. I absolutely.
You suffered through every single minute of it.
You know, and I sometimes think, like in the middle of the night when I can't sleep, why on earth, how did you talk me into this?
That's a good question. I don't think you really knew what you were committing to when I mentioned it.
But I thought about it this morning during my workout, and I am very comfortable telling you no.
Yes.
I take actually great pride when I can tell you no and have my reasons backed up, and I joyfully, walk away and leave you to fix whatever you thought I was going to fix for you.
Well, you're the yin to my yang.
Why did I not tell you no to this thing?
Because I phrased it in the negative, and I said, Diana, you can't be on this podcast, and you said, no, I am.
There. That one didn't work either. I'd have been like, okay, I'm so sorry, I can't do that for you, Mark. But anyway, so today is episode 100, Mark. Did you think we'd get here?
Yes, I did. I had every
Clearly
confidence.
People did not.
And we, except for one week where we had a technical glitch, we have not missed a single week. I mean, it's not like we've taken 100 years to do 100 episodes. We have knocked it out.
Yeah, that would be a different metric.
Yes, in less than 2 years, we are on our 100th episode. So today, we're going to tell the story of the podcast, and specifically, why did we create this podcast, how we did it, and quite frankly, from your perspective, why does every lawyer need their own platform? Now, I'm not saying your platform needs to be a podcast necessarily, but I think all successful lawyers need to be developing their stage, their platform from which they can become known in whatever it is that they really want to become known for. They want to become known as a thought leader in whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to think about that. You need to develop your platform. So we're going to take the story of how we developed this podcast, and hopefully we can convert it into some helpful tips and tricks and strategies on how other lawyers can get out there and develop their own platform, whatever that platform may look like. We're not telling you all to go start a podcast. I'm not saying this is easy, but how to turn platforming yourself into a strategic advantage.
Did you always want to have a podcast, Mark?
No, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I'll be honest with you, I was late to the podcast game. I was actually on a few podcasts back in the mid-teens, and I didn't even know I was on a podcast. They were like, Mark, we want to record you for something, and I didn't know what they wanted to record me for. And they go, and I said, what are you doing? Like, well, just think of it as a radio show. I'm like, oh, you're going to put me on the radio? Well, not quite exactly, but it's going to be similar to that. Turns out they were recording me for, a podcast, but I just didn't know what a podcast was. It wasn't really until the pandemic that I started paying attention to podcasts and started listening to them. And realizing, oh, this is cool. This is, and anybody can do this.
Did you know, I was listening to Lawsome, which is Tanner Jones's podcast. He just had a podcasting guy on there. And according to this guy, DM, I think is how he goes in the industry, he does podcasts for lawyers. And podcasts are the most trusted form of media for 3 generations. And I'm going to get it wrong because I got my outline late today, sir.
Yes.
Alpha. For the 3 generations, Alpha, Z, and Millennials, most trusted form of media. Would you have guessed that?
It doesn't surprise me. I may not have guessed it, but it certainly doesn't surprise me. I just realized I did one thing. I forgot to introduce you. Our normal intro is I introduce myself and I introduce you. Diana Berry is my COO, my number one.
Your co-podcaster?
And your my co-podcaster. And I just bounced right over that. So
that's okay. I mean, well, it's good to see here. Listen, you guys, if you're new to us, go back and listen to some of our greatest hits.
Yeah, really.
This is a different one that we're doing today. But I'm really excited, Marc, to hear the story. I think I've heard it kind of through the grapevine and when you've been around other people. But where did the opening hook come from? Who shamed you?
Who shamed me? So the opening, hey Diana, I got shit talked by another podcaster.
Oh shit! Not shamed.
Not
shit talked.
I got shit talked by another podcast. We'll play this clip in a minute. So, Conrad Somm and Guy Sakalakis, both friends of mine, have a really great podcast called the Lunch Hour Legal.
A really good one. I listened to it.
Really good. It's about legal marketing, and they're one of the reasons I think they're so good is it's just the two of them. They rarely ever have guests.
Mm-hmm.
It's just them talking about what's in the news, what they find interesting, and basically going through topics and analyzing them. And they do it in a funny, sort of snarky way.
They have a good rapport.
They have a good rapport, kind of like I do. So anyway. So I had thought, we're going to back up. Let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the Successful Barrister newsletter, because this is really where it starts. So in 2015, I decided that as part of my marketing strategy, specifically marketing to other attorneys, because other attorneys are one of our biggest referral sources, is that I wanted to do something specific for attorneys. I wanted to start a newsletter specifically directed to attorneys. And I've collected names my whole life. And today, as we sit here today, I have about 4,500 attorneys on our Successful Barrister mailing list. And this is not a mailing list that I bought or anything like that. That's cheating. This is a list of people that I actually have some connection to, whether they're friends, people I went to law school with, opposing counsel, cousins, members of PILMA, members of Texas Trial Lawyers Association, members of AAJ, all people that I have some connection to. All of these people should, I hopefully, know my name. So not just a random email list that you can buy. I have actually bought lists from the State Bar of Texas when I wanted to do some mass mailings to Texas lawyers. Big waste of money. I mean, if people don't know you, they're not going to pay attention to you. So I would rather spend my time focusing on this list of 4,500 people. So I said, let's develop a newsletter to go to these people. But it can't be a newsletter about what we do, which is disability law. It needs to be something that they would find interesting, something that they would find entertaining. So we came up with the tagline, which we have used forever, which is marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. And I think right there kind of shows you the attitude that we were seeking to do. So one of the things about the Successful Barrister newsletter, it is in comic book form. It's very colorful. We all have our own caricatures. The caricatures sometimes get dressed up. Like if it's a Halloween edition, we all get dressed up as Halloween. If it's a Valentine's Day edition, then maybe we all get dressed up in this, that, or the other. You've only been here 5 years. This has gone on for 10 years. So you missed the first 5 years. And we wanted to make it funny. We wanted to make it a little snarky. We wanted to make it a little smart ass. We've, done some edgy things. We've had people enraged at us about things that we put in the newsletter and demand that we be taken off the mailing list. How dare us? Mm-hmm. I actually got a call from a certain co-owner of Atticus, because apparently I offended a few Atticus members with a few things that I said in my newsletter. And I got called on the carpet for that. And I had to politely remind them that this was my own publication. This was not nothing that they own. So they don't have any editorial say about it. But I did call the person that apparently was offended by what we said, which I didn't think was all that bad. And I tried to calm them and apparently didn't do a good job. So I'm like, fine, I'll take you off my list. But that's kind of the whole point. We wanted to do something sort of edgy. We wanted to do something interesting. I want to do something that people would actually read and look forward to. And I think we did. And, when people fall off the list, they'll call me like, Mark, I didn't get your last edition. So anyway, it's been very popular. So the next obvious step in the evolution, somebody just said, Mark, why don't you turn the newsletter into a podcast?
Was that me?
I don't remember who told me.
I remember it was, I definitely told you a few years ago.
You probably were one of several that said that. So fine. So I'm sitting here talking about this, and we keep talking about it. And I keep trying to rattle around in my head is, how do I convert the edge and the snarkiness of the newsletter? How do I convert that into a podcast? And this is where I got stuck. I kept thinking. I just couldn't figure out exactly how to do it. And that's when I talked to Conrad I think it was in 2024 at the PILMA, it was at the Mass MTMP conference. So anyway, the very next week, I listened to Conrad's podcast, and he starts shit-talking me. Now, he didn't shit-talk me by name, but he starts shit-talking me. So,
are you sure it's you?
He admitted it was me.
Okay. All right. Fair enough then.
So we're going to play that real quick.
So sitting in Mass Sorts, someone was telling me how he's getting ready to get his podcast going. He's been working on it for 5 months, and he's going to set June as the deadline to publish. I'm like, dude, if it's taking you 5 months and we're looking at June, this is never going to happen for you.
All right. So that was Conrad shit-talking me on his podcast. And if anything ever motivated me is when somebody doubts me.
Yep.
So screw Conrad. This is going to happen. So what I did is I said, all right, we're just not, the good is better than the perfect. We're going to make a podcast, and we're just going to start going, and we're going to see how it rolls, and we're going to see how it develops. And maybe we don't catch every element of the newsletter, but we're just going to go with it. And that's what we did. So last month we were at PILMA, and guess who shows up? Conrad.
Yep.
So I play this clip for him. And he didn't remember it, obviously. And I play the clip for him, and Guy was there with him, and Guy starts clapping, and then Conrad starts clapping because they knew that I was coming up on my 100th episode. So he has recorded a little clip for us that we will play right now.
So I think in life, it's really important for one to acknowledge when one is wrong. And I was wrong with Marc Whitehead about 18 months ago. Actually, for a period of like 24 to 18 months ago, Marc kept talking to me about a podcast and these ideas and these thoughts and these podcasts. And at one point in time, I said, Marc, give up. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. The road is paved with good intention. 68% of podcasts fail within the first 6 months. You guys are not going to get this thing off the ground. And I was wrong. So happy 100th episode for the Successful Barrister podcast from Conrad at Mockingbird Marketing. I was wrong. I owe you a beer.
So anyway, Conrad was kind enough to record that for us and has eaten a little crow. And of course, I'm sure he's quite happy for us. Because we talk about his podcast all the time. I mean, we
are both avid listeners.
We're both avid listeners.
They do great work.
They do great work. And to some extent, we sort of emulated their format just a little bit, and we'll talk about that a little bit in after the break. But anyway, that is how this podcast launched. And so when we come back from break, we're going to kind of go through the details of how we did it, why we do the way we do it, and then what maybe you can take from that to incorporate into building your own platform.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead and Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEE. That's 701 VIP LEAD, or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, Diana. So the first question, how in the hell did I talk you into this?
Yes, sir.
So we started with the format. So, I actually had a book, How to Create Your Own Podcast. I bought that.
Of course
I bought
do.
that book. And of course, one of the things it did is it went through the possible formats. What sort of formats can you do? Now, a lot of people, do the interview show. They have guests. And I'm going out of order here. They have guests. And the problem with guest shows, I think the biggest one that people have told me is, number one, it's really hard to schedule guests. It's hard to get good guests that anybody cares about, and then it's hard to schedule them. They do occasionally create great conversation if it's a guest you're interested in. And you really don't have to generate any content. You just simply ask them questions and let them go. Look at Ken Hardison's podcast.
That was what I was thinking of.
Ken, I've been on Ken's podcast before, like 10 minutes before the podcast. He goes, Mark, what do you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
He just leaves it totally up to the guest.
Well, and usually they're promoting things.
Yeah.
But it is a very targeted. Usually, like, for example, Cassidy was on Ken's the other day, and I'm like, oh, well, I definitely want to listen to this.
Yeah, of course you do. So the cons are, number one, scheduling conflicts, to get other people scheduled. And I know this because I've been on other people's podcasts, and they're like trying to always, we'll go through 50 different iterations of potential dates because we're trying to coordinate everybody's calendar, and it's really hard to do. And guests can cancel on you last minute. I had to cancel one. Sorry, I didn't. It was a thing. But here's the way I look at it. I have some very good podcasts I like. Ken's. All right, so let's use Ken as an example. I only listen to about half of Ken's podcast because half of his guests hold absolutely no interest to me.
Ken's podcast is what? Grow Your Law Firm?
Grow Your Law Firm.
Okay.
It's the
Just make sure we...
Yes.
Yep.
Plug his podcast. If it's a guest that I have absolutely no interest in, I just don't listen. And, the problem is if you get several clunkers in a row, I may forget about your podcast. I'll use Michael Mogul as an example. Michael, I don't know what he got off on a string. He had something that interested him, and he went off on a tangent with a bunch of guests. And I missed like 5 or 6 weeks of listening to his podcast because just guests didn't appeal to me. And the next thing you know, Apple is not suggesting that podcast anymore. So, that's kind of the downside to having a guest podcast. The other one we considered was a solo podcast, where I would just do a solo podcast. That's really easy to schedule, and you can kind of control it. Production's a lot faster, but it just feels like a CLE. Am I that damn interesting? I don't really think so. No, I don't really think I'm that interesting. Nobody's here to challenge me. Gee, why do I have you here?
I ask myself that all the time.
To shit talk me. That's basically you're a professional shit talker.
But I'm really not unless it's you, I guess.
You're the yin to my yang. You're the shields to my Darnell. Boy, that's a reference nobody gets.
Didn't get that one.
Look it up. Google it.
I don't know about that one, but
Yes.
okay. And then so you landed on the Marc and Diana format?
So I landed on the Marc and Diana format. This was very much similar to the way Conrad and Guy run their podcast. It's generally just them. They occasionally have a guest, maybe 1 out of every 10 episodes they might have a guest. But generally speaking, it's just the two of them and covering in depth and in detail whatever topic they want to talk about. And the format is marketing. So they're always talking about some version of legal marketing. But they develop a rapport. I think we've developed a rapport. And I think in our format, you represent the listener. I sort of represent a point of view, and then you sort of represent the listener. Because you challenge me all the time. You question me. Like, are you really sure about you really do.
No, I did. Well, I try.
I think this is how I view it. Now, you may have a totally different perspective, which I would love to hear your perspective.
I've never thought of my perspective as the listener, but it does make sense.
The challenger.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll accept that.
All right. And the goal is for this podcast to feel just more like a conversation at a bar, not a silly event, not like we're trying to lecture to anybody. The goal is to have a conversation. And I know sometimes that when I do quote unquote the book reports, that sometimes we can get a little lecture-y.
A little nuance.
That's but I try to throw some levity into there when we do that.
You do think of this a lot like an entertainment, whereas I think of it as more education.
Right. And we come at it from those perspectives. I hope to entertain people and you want to educate people. And maybe we can do both at the same time.
I guess.
Maybe.
We'll try the next 100. So, Mark, you've got a couple of points here about our approach to the podcast.
So, why don't we start the podcast? Let's be honest. This is marketing. We're here to market myself. We're here to market our law firm. We're here to make sure that everybody knows what we do. But you can't smack people in the face with it. Nobody wants to sit and listen to a podcast about disability benefit law. Nobody. I wouldn't want to listen to it.
There is one out there.
Is there?
And
does anybody listen to it?
I do.
Oh my God.
I do. I really do.
Nerd alert.
That is one of the main reasons why you hired me, sir. But also, I think it's really good when I need to figure out something very technical, or I've even gotten ideas for the firm about anyway. But I was listening to that podcast, Lawsome, Tanner Jones, and he was saying basically that was one of the main reasons why if you talk about a very niche subject, it becomes obviously some of the things that we're going to talk about here, how you can cross promote it on the website and those types of things. You become an answer for people through your podcast.
So you think of it sort of as an answer podcast. I think of it as a relationship podcast. I view this as relationship marketing. I'm marketing to you, but I'm not hitting you over the head saying send me cases. I'm marketing to you in the sense that I'm trying to develop a rapport with you. I'm trying to develop a relationship with you. Thereby, I develop, number one, top of mind awareness. Number two, I develop a level of trust. Hopefully people, that listen to this, trust me because they think at least I have half a brain, or at least they know you have half a brain, and that
there we go. Are we really using the podcast for that, Mark?
Well, yes. At least
for me anyway.
At least they know you have half a brain.
Yes, sir. But I also think that same approach, if you decide to launch your own podcast and you want to make it about your particular practice area, whether that's, for example, I think that the example Tanner Jones's guest used was about family planning, estate law, and you want to get very specific about the question that you're answering, then some of those things that you talk about relationship building, that they think that they know you, that your subject material also works if you decide to do a very subject matter based podcast.
Right. So the way I kind of looked at it, we want to be known for ideas. We don't really want to be known as advertisers. We want to be the ideal people. And we may not have all the answers, but we can at least ask some good questions.
Because the primary reason for the podcast, Mark, wasn't to find clients as other podcasts might be.
No, a lot of it is to just, raise our profile. We want to become known as people.
Because as you pointed out, Mark, the primary reason for this is it is a relationship. This is marketing. And one of your primary sources for your firm in terms of leads is from
other attorneys.
And so this is the business case for the podcast.
Right. The business case. The business case, in addition to being top of mind, aware, it also leads to speaking invitations. I now become known as a voice. Well, I get invitations to go speak at places. Not that I didn't before, but I think it's a little bit more readily available to me now. You help develop referral relations. It helps with firm recruiting. When we recruit the various people, they look at our podcast just to see what kind of people we are. Which I'm kind of cool and you're kind of nerdy. They kind of get the vibe.
Well, let's hope that they're not listening to all of them. But yes.
Yeah, don't listen to episode 47. Skip that one, please.
There are a few I wish I could take back.
But networking, brand recognition. People, I love this when people walking up at conferences and saying, "Hey, Mark, I listen every week." That's kind of cool, and it gives me a segue to talk to them. And we got that a lot with and still do with the Barrister printed newsletter, because they walk up to me, Mark, you're the cartoon guy. That's what they know me as, is I'm the cartoon guy, because they get this comic book every other month in their mailbox. So they already feel like they know me before we actually even meet, which is an incredible icebreaker when you're wanting to build relationships.
Yeah, Mark, I don't get that as much as you do. I don't know if it's because I don't go anywhere, but I did when I was in Atticus last month when you were in.
They all know your name.
They did.
They all like, oh, we love Hey Diana. Diana, we love Diana.
Sam came up and was like, "Yeah, your podcast's so great," and I was like, "Oh, thanks, I appreciate it, Sam." I'm like, we don't even do the same type of law. He listens, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, nobody does what we do, so it's like, that would be another reason not to do one over what we do. Like, nobody does it.
It would be a very niche podcast.
It would be very stupid niche. And it's not like you can't do one on subject matter. Like, so for example, Michael Cowan, who I've been on his podcast too. He does truck accidents. He's a big rig guy. That's how he promotes himself. I'm the big rig accident guy out of San Antonio. Friend of mine, an Aggie, by the way, good Aggie. Mm-hmm. Aggies stick together. Now his podcast is called Trial Lawyer Nation. So, but it's geared toward other attorneys, and it's basically they have guests and they talk about ways to try a better lawsuit. And he has a big following. But that's again, it was a different take on it, because a lot of people do PI law. You can't swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting the PI lawyer. You don't like my metaphors?
No, sir. PETA doesn't either.
PETA and I,
we're not going to go there.
I'm just saying, I love PETA. I very much approve of their mission. I just think their tactics are a little bit.
They're interesting. Aren't they? Kind of like you.
Uh-huh.
So it is nice. I think it's a nice ego stroke for you when people do listen, Mark. And I think it makes sense, though, to not talk about disability law, though, if that is your, if you want to talk about estate planning and or those types of things.
Yeah, it would be really tough, I think, to carry a topic like that and make it more broad stroke, because, we want to cover as much territory as possible.
That was definitely our approach. However, if you want to take this opposite approach, highly recommend, again, Blossom, Tanner Jones. It's the most recent podcast as of, we are June 26th recording this. So go look that episode up, because, the gentleman's theory is that podcasts aren't meant for mass consumption. So if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, in your practice area, it's not unheard of for sure.
No, you can certainly do it. But we wanted to focus on the lawyers, and I think the less we advertise, the more other lawyers actually respect the podcast itself. We don't try, like I said, we don't try to hit you in the face with what we do. We just try to help educate and entertain. I entertain, you educate. Just remember our roles here.
And you do keep the firm very much in the background. It's really a commercial, right?
Yeah.
It's a sponsor.
Right. Now, that's not to say that we don't weave our examples in,
of course,
strategically, mm-hmm. as George Bush would say, strategically.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just made up a new word. That isn't quite how he pronounced it.
No, I don't think that's how he did.
I make up words all the time.
It is what you know, Mark. I think our practice area is what you know, so it is easier. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the more that we end up, spending time with Atticusans and their estate planning, we learn more about that as we're launching elder law. We've learned how to weave in some of those analogies. And so I think that to make it more relatable, because some of the things that we could talk about can be very niche.
Yeah. So I will say, how do we actually do this? I will say the production of the podcast, I think, is relatively easy.
I think you're glossing over the hardest part.
Oh, see, but that's the thing, because you prepare a couple of hours for every podcast and I prepare like 10 minutes. So this is the difference. I find it very easy to just sit here and talk and riff and bounce off of you, and play with you and insult you, very kindly.
Insult me kindly.
Just waiting for you to zing one back at me.
Insult me kindly. I think that needs to go on your, I don't know, the little nameplate on your thing. And I will insult you kindly.
Well, that could be the name of a song. We could work that into a lyric.
I don't know. But I do think that you're glossing over one of the most challenging parts of podcast and creating it, which is content.
Well, I was leading into the second part, which is I think the creation is not that hard, in my opinion. Now, the promotion of the podcast is quite a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to promote this content. Now, we don't do it. You and I don't do it.
What do you know about that, Mark?
Because somebody told me, okay?
Well, I'm telling you that creation is hard, and you don't believe me.
I don't. So let's just say this. It's clear that this process you're not a high I. So it's a stressful thing for you.
Which again, how did you convince me to do this?
I am still wondering.
On the eye, I don't understand.
It's mentally draining for you to go through this process every week. For me, it's not. For me, it's like, this is fun. I enjoy it.
Actually, Mark, I'm just going to go ahead and tell on you since we're in episode 100. It's not like you can fire me at this point from this thing, but it's not the recording isn't necessarily hard. It's the fact that you don't give me the material beforehand that is very stressful for me.
And it makes for great podcasts when you're just like,
I just can't with him right now. But the content creation is very hard, which I think is its own podcast. So I'm not going to belabor that point. Look for it in an upcoming podcast on how we develop content, how you can create content in yours.
You just throw shit on the wall and see what sticks.
We don't. We use analytics, which is a real important part. But let's talk a lot more about the production portion, since you have talked to people.
Okay.
And it is the most challenging part of this podcast.
Right. I have been told, since I don't do this myself. So with the production, all right, so far there's a newsletter, an email newsletter that goes out with this, an e-blast. It gets cut up and goes onto YouTube. It goes on to social media. It goes onto the website. We have video clips. It goes a lot of places, and it takes a good long time for our production people, to actually do this. I mean, so we do this in a couple of ways. So first of all, here with us, we have our marketing assistants. So we have Jackie here running the board. We have Austin here back in the back doing whatever Austin's doing. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but he's here.
He's our marketing director, Mark. Let me introduce you to our marketing director, Austin.
I know he's the marketing director. I just meant for the purposes of this podcast, I think he's just...
But let's all be clear. Typically doesn't. We typically try very hard not to get our marketing director involved. I think it's because it's episode 100 that we're being a little bit more.
Yeah, I think he's like a little paranoid, but he didn't want this to go wrong because we have lost an episode.
Or two, guys. That's also probably going on that content episode in the future.
But they do have to set up. It takes about a half hour to set up.
We don't have a dedicated green room in the office, much to everyone's dismay. So the actual production part can be challenging, Mark. But then you get to use it in different venues. I know you've alluded to it on social media.
We blow it
on the website.
We try to blow it out on all forms of social media. We have a production company that does all the editing, kind of puts it together. It's a little bit of work. It has to go up on all the platforms. It has to go on Apple, Spotify. I don't even know all the platforms. I use Apple and Spotify. That's all I know of. I'm sure there are dozens. It's views and metrics getting measured. Last week I think we cracked 10 people who actually listened.
Was it your mom and my mom?
It was your mom, my mom.
It's not my husband. I love my husband. Does Tina listen to us?
Tina does not listen to this.
So they got together and were like, oh my gosh, we hear their voices too much anyway.
They don't listen. The funniest person who does listen is my 20-year-old daughter, two of her best friends. For whatever reason, they love myself. They love me and Tina. They come over to our house a lot, and they just got they're 20 years old. They just got their own apartment. So we cleared out our entire kitchen. We had all of this leftover dishware, glasses.
Okay. I'm like, Mark, you don't need to give them
Well,
your
I mean,
opened can of
No, I'm not talking about that. But just
mayonnaise.
like, I mean, we had an extra mic. We
Okay.
gave them all kind of
This
stuff.
sounds like a really good deal.
Anyway, so I gave them the MWA sweatshirt. Both of them they love it. And like, Mr. Mark, we listen to your podcast. I'm like, what would a 20-year-old kid care about this podcast?
That's
they
really
listen.
cool.
They listen.
That's really awesome. Mark, I think that, as we wrap up this segment, one of my hopes and dreams, and I'm going to hope that I'm going to make this Austin. I'm going to send over some juju to Austin. So I think when I was pushing this podcast to you, what I'd love to be able to do, tying it back to how we started with the Successful Barrister, is being able to tie the print newsletter, which we all as attorneys in the firm write in the Successful Barrister, and I'm very proud the print version, because I don't use AI in my articles. I've actually asked our marketing team to create a little sticker that says 100% human, because I'm very proud that I write my articles. Because that's not so subtle a dig at you, sir.
I use it as a tool.
But one of my hopes is that one day you guys will be able to open the Successful Barrister, the print newsletter, scan a QR code, and have it tie back to one of the episodes from the podcast.
Does it not? I think it does already sometimes. It does sometimes.
It should if it doesn't already. But I think it's just a really great way for cross-promotion, and something that I think that, Mark, I know that you share this, that every lawyer should also be thinking about that, whether you already have a print version of going to your attorney referrals or a podcast yourself.
I think I lost your train of thought there where you were trying to go.
Well, I think that, I think what you're trying to close out here, that is every lawyer should think like a publisher.
Right. Every lawyer ought to think like a publisher. Now, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's, getting yourself out in front of the press, wherever you want to build your platform out, whether it's, I know lawyers who do the TikTok thing, which we don't really do. Do we do TikTok?
No.
We don't. I mean,
No.
I had to ask somebody because I didn't know the answer to that, but
Let's go with no.
We're going to go with no TikTok.
No TikTok. Also not our demographic.
It's not our demographic.
Attorneys do very well with it.
If you're looking for young people, that's where you go. We're not looking for young people in our world. We're looking for older people.
Not typically.
We're going to AARP. That's where we're going. That's not a joke either. That's the honest to God truth. So, but you want to figure out, you want to think like a publisher, you want to build your platform. And that can mean a lot of things to, a lot of different lawyers out there. Jim Adler's platform is television.
Mm-hmm.
That's his daytime TV is where his platform is. I had a friend, before he became a judge, had our local radio program, on a local radio station. He had a program, it was an hour long, and I think it was once a week. And I actually was a guest on his radio show once before. I think if he hadn't got elected judge, he would probably still have that radio program.
Well, speaking of radio, one of our friends in the disability world just mentioned how much success she's having with just a simple radio ad, which also makes sense because I'm probably one of the only people in my demographic that still listens to the radio.
I bet you a lot of people do more than you think.
But I think it's also the older generation.
It is the older generation. And it's also talk radio. A lot of people listen to talk radio, and a lot of people I know that advertise on radio, they really focus on talk radio because that's where the audience is right now.
So even if podcasting isn't your thing, or if sounds like it's too big for you, consider some of these other opportunities.
And it's not that hard. We hire people to do most of this stuff for us. So
when we come back,
we're going to give you our 5 action steps going forward. This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
And we're back as we wrap up episode 100, Mark.
100.
With another 100 to go?
Yeah, we have 1,000 to go.
Oh, dear,
I'm
Mark.
counting. I said I have 20 good years left in me, so that's 52 episodes times 20 years. Do the math on that.
I don't know that I have
2 or 3
20
million?
more years.
I don't remember.
Working me. So you are going to close this out with your top 5 action steps going forward.
Okay, so I would say that one thing, if anything, putting out 100 episodes teaches you is that, your thought leadership is sort of a compounding project, and I know we've covered several topics multiple times, and I always worry about that when we pick up a topic and we've already covered that topic. But yeah, there's so much more to talk about. And now, a year later, I have different thoughts on the same topic. So, the more you think about things, the more you think about, the more you learn, the different angles you can see on the same problem. If you just kind of go back and repeat it over and over again. So, I apologize. Occasionally we repeat episodes, but we put a different spin on it, I think. So, what was your question? My 5 things?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I got off topic.
Yes,
I
sir,
wandered.
You did wander down the deep, dark forest.
Yes.
All right, what's number 1, Mark?
Stop waiting until it's perfect. That was my problem, and that's what I appreciate Conrad for doing, is he kicked me in the pants and challenged me, basically. I ain't ever going to get it done. All right, because I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to figure out a way to get every element of the printed newsletter into the actual podcast version, and I realized I can't. There's no way that we can get every element of that in there. We just need to roll with it and see how it develops. I'm sure our first 5 or 10 podcasts just sucked. Go back and listen.
There was a format we absolutely abandoned in the first 2 or 3. It was in the news type thing that we were like, yeah,
we tried to, and we probably were trying to copy Conrad and Guy a little bit.
Okay. Well, I didn't. Yeah, that makes sense now that you put those 2 together. But what is the thing that you always tell me, Mark? Done is better than perfect.
Exactly. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Just get it done. The second thing is choose a format that you can sustain. That was one of the real big reasons that we avoided the guest format, is I just didn't think that we could sustain it.
Because I'm literally downstairs.
Yeah, because you're literally downstairs and you have to do what I tell you to do. Okay. So I remember back when I was president of the Harris County Democratic Lawyers Association back in 03, 04, 05, somewhere back in there, I can't remember. And I was in charge of finding a guest speaker for our monthly lunch. And there was nothing more miserable than beating the bushes to find an interesting guest speaker. And I only had to do it once a month. And I really harkened back to that miserable experience and decided I don't want to have to be searching for guests constantly for this podcast. That would be a drain on my mental capacity.
Well, and similar to a format, I think it's a schedule that you can maintain. I think we obviously record weekly, or sometimes we'll batch, right? We'll do 2 or 3 a week as much as
never done 3 a week.
I have thrown fits on the weeks that we've done more than
we've done 2.
Fits.
The most we've ever done is 2.
Well, because of scheduling.
We've done 2 in a day before, and that's kind of exhausting.
We had never again. But I do think that, because our intent is to drop 1 a week. But I think that can be, stymieing for some people. So consider dropping once a month or, once every other week. But maintain a schedule. It's most important that you be consistent rather than to just try to drop every week.
Right. Because in the podcast world, if you're not consistent, Apple stops suggesting you. So I have a friend who has a great podcast. I ran into her assistant at the Lanier's thing this week, and I complained. I said, "You realize your boss hasn't dropped a podcast since February."
You said that to Tona too.
Yeah, I said it to Tona. Now Tona does a little different. Tona takes off a couple of months out of the year, so he goes solid for about 9 months out of the year, and then he'll take 2 or 3 months off.
We should consider that.
I think that's an awful idea. No,
what's number 3?
It's like starting over every 3 months or every 9 months or whatever.
Starting over is a beautiful thing.
No, it isn't.
What's number 3?
We're not going to do that. Build the authority before you need it. Start banking authority before you need it. Right now, I walk into a room full of lawyers. I've built some authority with them. Probably not one of those people in that room has a referral for me at that moment, but I've already built up the authority, because when they do happen to run across whatever we need, bam, I'm going to be the guy. That's how you do it. That's the whole nature of building a referral network, is you can't wait until you're not going to be able to get in front of them at the moment that they need you. You got to get in front of them ahead of time, and you got to build that relationship over the long term, and you got to maintain that relationship. Relationships die really quickly if you let them slide. So constant. What was my next one? Oh, think like a publisher. Build a content ecosystem, for every ideal that you want to promote. Again, it doesn't have to be a podcast. You could have a newsletter. That's what we did for years. We had the newsletter. Still have the newsletter. But what is it? Substack is now a big thing. Have you ever done on Substack?
I follow some people on Substack.
Yeah.
I don't even understand it.
I have yet to understand the hook, but there's a whole ecosystem out there on Substack.
Well, and I get a little intimidated because it's like, pay to follow me more for more content. And I'm like,
right, but it's a whole publisher,
lot.
plethora of stuff. Some good, some crap.
I've got a lot of stuff. Okay.
I always called it OnlyFans for nerds. So.
Oh well, why didn't you just say so?
Oh well, I just thought of that. So.
You should TM it.
I should TM that.
Right,
OnlyFans for nerds.
What is your number 5?
Austin's over here shaking his head like, yeah.
Oh my God, he's TMing it as we speak.
Yes, TM that. Keep showing up. 100 good episodes beats 10 perfect ones. And that was the first thing. I remember our first episode, I just thought was horrible. It was, in my head, it was awful. Now
go back and listen to
You go back and listen. It's not bad. It's actually not bad. I give myself a lot of grace. I walk out of many of these episodes like, that episode kind of sucked. And then I go back and listen to them. Oh, that's pretty good. It's always better than you think. You're always more self-critical than you really need to be.
Well, so as we wrap up, Marc, I'm just going to let all of our visitors know, or listeners know, I'm sure that they're curious how Marc did on his Italian sabbatical away as the owner. We were doing a little test to where he didn't check email, and he actually did very well, and I did very well not reaching out to him, with the exception of you finally are like, how is Atticus? Tell me about Atticus. And I'm like, okay, you got it. And then the second message was, I've been listening to our podcast across Italy. And I'm like, and how are we doing? And what did you say? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. What did I say?
We are on fire. And I'm like, no. I think you said, I am on fire.
Oh, that's right. I said, I'm on fire.
So which is pretty much that sums up this entire podcast.
When you're driving through the Italian countryside with your entire family with you and they're just yakking away, I'm like, I'm sitting there on the passenger side. I just slip the right headphone in my right ear where they can't see it. And I kind of lean my head over. I'm just turning on podcast because I can't listen to these people anymore.
Well, I'm sure the wine also helped, Marc. So any parting thoughts as we wrap up episode 100, Marc?
I would just say number one, I would like to thank you for being my partner in this. I really do appreciate this. I know this isn't exactly what you call just boatloads of fun. Yeah. But I do. No. I enjoy it tremendously. And I want to thank all of our listeners.
Yes, thank you for listening and for being on this journey with us.
Yes, thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you got some value with this. If you did get some value, let me hear from you. Marc at marcwhitehead.com. Marc is spelled with a C, or Diana with 12 N's.
Or just one.
At marcwhitehead.com. We would love to hear from you, and we would like to hear your suggestions, your ideas, your comments, your critiques,
your questions.
Yeah, your questions.
We should do one of that in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Ask Marc and Diana anything.
Oh, another AMA. You know how many AMAs are out there?
I don't.
Because everybody's name begins with a fucking M. Michael Mogul.
We were doing
Mark Powers.
Well, to not do an explicit episode.
I already said shit talk once before.
Well, I think I could have gotten Austin to forget about that one, but now you dropped the F-bomb, and now I can't.
Oh, well, that's terrible.
But I think, Marc, the AMA would be a good one for us, even though you do have the N.
Well, then y'all have to send us some questions.
Well, ask Marc or Diana anything.
Yeah, Marc or Diana. Don't leave it just to me.
And then it's not an AMA.
It's an AMDA.
There we go.
That sounds like a do not resuscitate order or something.
Okay, Marc.
With that, you're telling me to wrap up. With that, I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. I don't have my outro
I'm
in front of me. So, that's right. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate and review it wherever you get your podcast. Somebody give us a 3. I'm going to challenge you. Give us a 3 just to prove that you're listening.
No, don't give us a 3.
We don't have any 3s.
And we want to thank our sponsor.
No, I want to see if they're listening. So give me a 3. I want to see who gives me a 3.
My feelings will be very hurt, and I'll take that very specifically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. You really hate that when we get bad reviews.
I'm very sensitive.
She's very sensitive about that. All right. Where was I in the outro?
We want to thank our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates.
Oh, that's right. We want to thank our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm. Do we have to give our email address again? Because I don't think I did.
I think we're good, though.
Okay. You know my email address. mark@markwhitehead.com. Mark spelled with a C. And go build a practice, not a prison. Bye.
Bye.